Life has a way of teaching us the most profound lessons in the most unexpected moments. On a crisp autumn morning in 2023, the streets of a quiet suburban neighborhood became the stage for an encounter that would challenge assumptions, spark conversations, and ultimately reveal the complexity of human relationships in our modern society. It started like any other routine traffic stop. Red and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror of a sleek black SUV. The driver, a distinguished 25-year veteran of the police force who had recently been promoted to captain, carefully pulled over to the curb. He was heading home after attending his daughter's college graduation ceremony, still wearing his perfectly pressed suit beneath his civilian jacket. What the patrol officer didn't realize as he approached the vehicle was that this routine stop would become one of the most transformative moments of his career. The situation could have easily escalated into another headline about racial tension between law enforcement and the community. Instead, what unfolded over the next 15 minutes would leave both officers forever changed. Through the tinted windows, assumptions were made. Through quick judgments, mistakes were almost cemented. But sometimes, the universe has a way of orchestrating events that force us to confront our own biases and preconceptions head-on. As the patrol officer tapped on the driver's window, neither man could have predicted how their interaction would ripple through their department and community. License and registration, the patrol officer demanded, his hand instinctively resting on his belt. The driver reached slowly for his credentials, years of law enforcement experience guiding his measured movements. In that moment, two worlds collided, one of authority and one of experience, both wearing different uniforms of respect. The tension in the air was palpable as the captain carefully reached for his wallet. His decades of experience in law enforcement had taught him exactly how to handle this situation, but something told him this stop was different. He could feel it in the way the officer's stance shifted as he approached, in the tone of his voice, in the assumptions that hung heavy in the morning air. What happened next would challenge everything both officers thought they knew about their profession, about each other, and about the complex dynamics that continue to shape our society. Their encounter would become a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important lessons come not from our training manuals or years of experience, but from those unexpected moments when life forces us to see beyond our initial perceptions. As the captain's hand emerged with his credentials, the morning sun caught the gleam of something else, something that would turn this routine traffic stop into a story that would be shared in police briefing rooms and community meetings for years to come. But more importantly, it would become a testament to the power of human connection and understanding in bridging the gaps that sometimes seem impossible to cross. What unfolded in those next few moments would not only challenge both officers' perspectives, but would also serve as a powerful reminder that beneath our uniforms, badges, and titles, we're all human beings capable of growth, understanding, and change. Their story would soon become a beacon of hope in a time when such stories are needed more than ever. The question is, are you ready to witness what happened next? As the captain handed over his credentials, a heavy silence filled the space between the two officers. The patrol officer's eyes widened as he read the name and rank on the identification card, his grip tightening ever so slightly on the leather wallet. Above the official police badge number was the unmistakable insignia of their very own department, the same badge the patrol officer wore proudly on his own chest. 20 minutes earlier, the patrol officer had received a vague call about a suspicious vehicle matching this SUV's description. Someone had reported unusual behavior in the neighborhood, though the details were frustratingly unclear. It was the kind of call that often led nowhere, but protocol demanded he investigate. Now, standing beside the vehicle, he was beginning to understand just how complicated this morning would become. The captain, meanwhile, remained calm and collected, drawing from his quarter-century of experience in law enforcement. He'd been in the patrol officer's shoes countless times before, making similar stops, following similar protocols. But today, he was on the other side of the interaction, and the irony wasn't lost on him. His daughter's graduation photos sat on the passenger seat, a reminder of the celebration he just left. A proud father moment now interrupted by this unexpected encounter. Years of training had taught both men to be cautious, to expect the unexpected. but nothing in their training had prepared them for this particular situation. The patrol officer's hand slowly moved away from his belt as the realization of who he pulled over began to sink in. His mind raced through department protocols, trying to navigate this unprecedented situation. The morning traffic continued to flow around them, oblivious to the profound moment unfolding on the shoulder of the road. A few curious onlookers slowed as they passed, smartphones at the ready, expecting perhaps to capture another controversial police encounter. But what they couldn't see was the internal struggle playing out in both officers' minds. The captain could see the younger officer's internal conflict written across his face. He recognized that look. He'd worn it himself early in his career when faced with situations that challenged his assumptions. This wasn't just about a traffic stop anymore. This was about something much deeper, something that touched the very core of their shared profession. Through the open window, the sound of the patrol officer's radio crackled with routine dispatches, a reminder of the world they both served. The captain noticed the officer's name tag, and something clicked in his memory. He'd seen this young officer before, at a department training session just last month. He'd been impressed by the young man's dedication and attention to detail, never imagining their paths would cross again in such circumstances. As the patrol officer stood there, credentials in hand, his training battled with his conscience. The suspicious vehicle call that had led him here suddenly seemed flimsy, insufficient. The weight of his next decision felt enormous, knowing it could impact not just his career, but potentially the entire department's relationship with the community they served. The tension was broken by the buzz of the captain's phone, his daughter calling, probably wondering why he hadn't arrived home yet. He let it ring, knowing this moment deserved his full attention. There was something important unfolding here, something that transcended a simple case of mistaken identity or questionable judgment. In that moment, both men knew they stood at a crossroads. The next few minutes would determine not just the outcome of this traffic stop, but possibly the future of police-community relations in their city. The real question wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about what happened next, and how they would choose to handle this delicate situation. Little did they know, their interaction was about to take yet another unexpected turn. The tension reached its peak when the patrol officer suddenly noticed something else in the SUV, a framed department commendation visible through the rear window. It was the same award ceremony he'd attended just 3 months ago, watching from the back of the room as senior officers were honored for their service. The memory hit him like a wave, and his hands began to tremble slightly as he held the captain's credentials. In that moment, a police cruiser pulled up behind them, responding to the concerned calls from passersby who had witnessed the stop. The situation was now drawing more attention than either officer had wanted. The captain could see in his rearview mirror as another officer stepped out, likely responding to what appeared to be a tense situation from the outside. The patrol officer found himself at a crossroads. His original suspicions about the vehicle had evaporated, replaced by a growing realization of his mistake. But now, with an audience gathering and another unit on scene, the weight of his next decisions felt even heavier. He knew that how he handled the next few moments would speak volumes about his character and judgment. The captain, drawing from years of experience in diffusing tense situations, chose his next words carefully. He kept his hands visible on the steering wheel as he began to speak, his voice carrying the weight of authority tempered with understanding. The words he was about to say would either bridge the gap between them or deepen the divide that had led to this situation in the first place. Around them, the morning had grown busier. School buses passed by, parents walked their children to school, and more cars slowed down to observe the scene. What had started as a routine traffic stop had transformed into something that could either become a teachable moment or a cautionary tale. The backup officer approached slowly, picking up on the unusual tension in the air. The patrol officer's posture had changed, and something about the way he held the captain's credentials suggested this was far from a routine stop. The growing crowd of onlookers added another layer of pressure to an already complex situation. Inside the SUV, the captain's phone buzzed again, this time with a text from his daughter asking if everything was okay. He glanced at the graduation photos on his passenger seat, a reminder of how quickly a day of celebration had turned into something else entirely. But his years of experience told him this moment was bigger than just him. It was about every officer who'd ever faced a similar situation and every citizen who'd ever felt unfairly targeted. The patrol officer took a deep breath, his next move weighing heavily on his conscience. His training had prepared him for many situations, but this one was testing not just his professional judgment, but his personal values as well. The morning sun continued to rise, casting long shadows across the scene, as he prepared to take action that would forever change both their lives. What happened next would not only define this encounter, but would become a powerful statement about law enforcement, human dignity, and the possibility of change. As the backup officer drew closer, the patrol officer's hand moved toward his body camera, knowing that whatever happened in the next few moments would be recorded for posterity. The captain's expression remained unreadable as he waited for the young officer's next move. The air grew thick with anticipation as everyone present sensed they were about to witness something significant. The next few moments would either escalate the situation or transform it into something unexpected. Just then, the backup officer's eyes widened in recognition. "Captain?" she called out, her voice carrying across the scene. But it wasn't just any backup officer. It was the captain's former trainee from a decade ago, someone whose career he had personally mentored. The layers of connection and complexity in this moment multiplied instantly, adding another dimension to an already charged situation. The patrol officer's hand froze midway to his body camera as he watched this unexpected reunion unfold. The growing crowd of onlookers, their phones still recording, had no idea they were witnessing a moment where past, present, and future of the department converged on this suburban street corner. The captain's expression softened slightly as he recognized his former trainee, but he remained focused on the larger situation at hand. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about setting an example for both officers present, about showing how such situations could be handled with dignity and wisdom. His decades of experience had taught him that sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the most uncomfortable moments. But just as the tension seemed ready to break, dispatch crackled over all their radios with an urgent call. A serious incident was unfolding just blocks away, an emergency that would require immediate response. The timing couldn't have been more crucial, forcing all three officers to make split-second decisions about their priorities and duties. The patrol officer stood frozen between his original traffic stop and his duty to respond to the emergency. The captain, hearing the urgency in the dispatcher's voice, knew exactly what was at stake. The backup officer looked between her former mentor and her current duty, the conflict evident on her face. In that moment, the sound of approaching sirens added to the complexity of the scene. More units were responding to the emergency call, passing by their location, their lights reflecting off the windows of the captain's SUV. The weight of their badges, their duty, and their shared responsibility to the community hung heavy in the morning air. The crowd of onlookers had grown larger, their phones still recording, unaware of the emergency unfolding nearby. They could sense something significant was happening, but couldn't quite grasp the multiple layers of complexity playing out before them. Some had begun to live-stream the encounter, adding another level of public scrutiny to an already delicate situation. The captain's phone lit up again, this time with an emergency notification about the incident dispatch had just announced. As a senior officer, he knew the details that weren't being shared over the public channel. The situation developing nearby was even more serious than the radio call suggested, and time was of the essence. The patrol officer's hand finally reached his body camera, but instead of what everyone expected, he did something that surprised everyone present. His next action would challenge everything the onlookers thought they knew about police encounters, and would test the boundaries of procedure, protocol, and human understanding. As sirens wailed in the distance and the emergency calls continued to crackle over their radios, all three officers found themselves at a pivotal moment. Their next decisions would not only impact their own lives and careers, but could potentially reshape department policy and community relations for years to come. The morning sun now hung high in the sky, illuminating a scene that was about to transform from a simple traffic stop into something that would be remembered and discussed for years to come. The patrol officer made a decision that would later be described as a turning point in police-community relations. In one fluid motion, he switched off his body camera, handed back the captain's credentials, and spoke words that silenced the murmuring crowd. "Captain, sir, we need your expertise on this emergency call. I made a mistake today, but right now, our community needs all of us." The captain, reading the sincerity in the young officer's eyes, nodded with understanding. In that moment, he saw not just a patrol officer acknowledging a mistake, but a fellow public servant choosing integrity over pride. Without hesitation, he reached into his glove compartment and pulled out his badge and radio. He had never been one to stand idle when his community needed help. The backup officer, witnessing this exchange, quickly coordinated with dispatch. Within seconds, what had started as a controversial traffic stop transformed into a coordinated emergency response. The crowd watched in amazement as all three officers quickly mobilized, their previous tension dissolved by their shared sense of duty. But it was what happened next that truly captured the hearts of everyone present. The patrol officer, instead of returning to his cruiser, approached the gathering of onlookers who were still recording. "What you've witnessed today isn't just about a mistake or a misunderstanding," he announced, his voice carrying across the morning air. "It's about how we choose to move forward when we realize we're wrong." The captain, who had started his engine, rolled down his window one last time. "Sometimes our greatest moments of learning come from our moments of discomfort," he added, sharing a knowing look with the young officer. "Now, let's go serve our community." The words resonated with everyone present, many of whom were already sharing the unexpected turn of events on social media. As the emergency sirens grew closer, the three officers prepared to respond to the ongoing situation. But before they departed, the patrol officer did something unprecedented. He gave his card to one of the onlookers and asked them to come to the station later. "Your recordings of this incident," he said, "they need to be part of our training program. This is how we learn. This is how we grow." The gathering crowd broke into spontaneous applause, not just for the peaceful resolution, but for witnessing a raw, genuine moment of human connection and growth. The captain's daughter, who had been continuously calling, finally got through just as they were about to leave. "Sorry I'm running late, sweetheart," he said with a smile, "but I think we just made a difference today." As the officers departed to handle the emergency, leaving behind a crowd of amazed onlookers, the patrol officer's dash cam caught one final exchange. The captain rolled down his window and called out, "Officer, what made you change your approach back there?" The young officer's response would later become a department motto. "Sir, I realize that our badge isn't just a symbol of authority. It's a reminder of our responsibility to be better today than we were yesterday." But the story doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, when the department held its monthly community meeting, something unexpected happened. The patrol officer and the captain walked in together, not as two officers who had experienced a tense encounter, but as partners in a new department-wide training initiative aimed at transforming police-community relationships. The recordings from that morning had indeed become part of the police academy's training curriculum, but with an unexpected twist. They were presented alongside body cam footage from both officers' most exemplary moments throughout their careers, showing that one moment doesn't define us, but how we choose to grow from it does. The impact of that morning's events continued to ripple through the community long after the sirens had faded. The emergency they responded to, a multi-car accident with no fatalities, was handled efficiently by the three officers working seamlessly together. Their coordinated response demonstrated how quickly trust could be built when people chose understanding over confrontation. The patrol officer's decision to include the community's recordings in police training sparked a revolutionary change in the department's approach to community relations. Within months, other police departments across the country began requesting information about their new training program. The captain and the young officer found themselves traveling to neighboring cities, sharing their story and the lessons learned from that unexpected morning. The backup officer, inspired by witnessing her former mentor's handling of the situation, developed a mentorship program pairing veteran officers with rookies. The program focused not just on procedures and protocols, but on the human elements of policing, understanding bias, building community trust, and maintaining dignity in challenging situations. At his daughter's next family gathering, the captain shared how that morning had reminded him why he joined the force in the first place. "Sometimes," he told his family, "our greatest mistakes lead to our most important moments of growth." His daughter, who had worried about him that morning, now proudly shared her father's story with her college classmates, sparking important discussions about change and understanding. The young patrol officer's career took an unexpected turn. His honest acknowledgement of his mistake and willingness to learn from it earned him respect throughout the department. 6 months later, he was promoted to lead the newly formed Community Relations Unit, where he worked alongside the captain to bridge gaps between law enforcement and the communities they served. The video footage from that morning, both from phones and body cameras, became more than just a training tool. It became a symbol of hope. Local schools requested special presentations where both officers spoke about the importance of acknowledging mistakes, choosing growth over pride, and understanding that authority comes with responsibility. 1 year later, at the department's annual awards ceremony, something unprecedented occurred. The captain and the patrol officer were jointly awarded the department's highest honor for their contributions to community policing. But it was their speech that left a lasting impression. Standing together at the podium, they shared how a potential confrontation had transformed into a catalyst for change. Real strength, the captain said during the ceremony, isn't about authority or power. It's about having the courage to admit when we're wrong and the wisdom to learn from those moments. The patrol officer added, "Every interaction is an opportunity to either build walls or bridges. The choice is always ours." The community member who had recorded the initial encounter was invited to speak at the ceremony. Their perspective helped complete the story, showing how a moment of potential conflict had transformed into an example of human connection and understanding. Their recording had become part of police academy curriculum nationwide. Today, that stretch of suburban road where it all happened looks just like any other. But for those who know the story, it represents something more, a reminder that change is possible, that growth comes from unexpected places, and that sometimes our most challenging moments can lead to our greatest transformations. As for the captain and the patrol officer, they still occasionally patrol together, sharing their story with new recruits and community members alike. Their experience serves as a powerful reminder that beneath every uniform, badge, and title, we're all human beings capable of learning, growing, and choosing understanding over division. The events of that morning proved that sometimes the most powerful changes don't come from grand gestures or policy reforms, but from simple moments of human connection and the courage to choose a better path forward.